Alright guys, Honors Algebra 1, Quarantine Day 1. This video again is for Honors Algebra 1, the 8th graders, for March 16th, 2020. I'm here at school talking to an empty classroom. This is not a lot of fun. Okay. Alright, so we're in the middle of our Quadratics unit back when we had session. We talked about standard form, we graphed parabolas. We talked about how to find the axis symmetry from standard form, how to find the Y-intercept from standard form, how to find the vertex from standard form. Okay. We talked about how do we know if parabolas open up or open down. And we did everything from standard form. Now we're going to go into factored form, another form of quadratics. We talked about this a little bit last week, so you might have some of this already written down. Factored form refers to a factored quadratic. Okay, we did factoring a couple weeks ago in the last unit. It refers to a binomial times a binomial. So factored form for us is going to be f of x equals a times x minus p times x minus q. Where p and q are the x-intercepts. Now that a value is the same a value that was in standard form. Okay. So if you're in standard form and you want to convert to factored form, you would factor it, and that a value shouldn't change. Okay. Now another thing to take away is that notice that the p and the q in the factors, it's x minus p and x minus q. Okay. Those minuses are built in. Okay. So if you have x minus 2, your x-intercept isn't negative 2, it's going to be positive 2, because that minus is already there. If you have x plus 2, your x-intercepts are going to be negative 2, because the plus would refer to minus and negative. So it's always kind of the opposite of what you see. Okay. All right, well, factored form tells us more than just the x-intercepts. For example, we could find the y-intercept. How do we normally find the y-intercept? Well, normally we plug in 0 for x. Okay. If we plug in 0 for x, down first. If we plug in 0 for x, we'd end up with a, instead of x minus p, we'll have 0 minus p. Instead of x minus q, we'll have 0 minus q. All right, and if we write that out, 0 minus p is negative p. 0 minus q is negative q. A negative times a negative is going to be positive, so those negatives go away. So our y-intercept is found by just doing a times p times q. So basically you're just going to be multiplying all the numbers that you have available. And last week in the other notes, we talked about how to find the axis of symmetry from factored form. The axis of symmetry, if you know the two intercepts, you know the axis of symmetry, because your two intercepts are going to be, your axis of symmetry is going to be halfway between those two intercepts. So your axis of symmetry, remember AOS, axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry can be found by taking your two x-intercepts, your p and your q, adding them together, and then dividing by 2. Because that'll tell you the number that's halfway between p and q, kind of the average is what you're finding. All right, so factored form does tell us a lot of information. Does it tell us as much as standard form? You know, pretty much it does. Because again, once we know the axis symmetry is always the x value of the vertex. So we could plug in the axis of symmetry to find the vertex. Okay. Might as well write that one down too. So if you know the axis of symmetry, which is the x value of the vertex, it's the p plus q divided by 2. And whatever number that is, you would just plug back into the equation to find the y value of the vertex. All right, so let's do a couple examples, and then that'll be it. All right, so this first example, say we have f of x equals -2 times x minus 2 times x plus 6. Okay. All right, so that's factored form. We have, if it helps, we'll write out the information we have. The a value in this case is -2. The p value is +2. And the q value is -6. Remember, it's always the opposite because the factored form had those negative signs built in. All right, let's start with the important information. Let's first start with the x-intercepts. Okay. The x-intercepts are your p and your q value. In this case, 2 and -6. Those are your x-intercepts. Okay, again, that's just taken straight from the factored form equation. All right, so let's go on to the axis of symmetry. We know p and we know q, so we're going to add them together and divide by 2. So 2 plus -6 divided by 2. 2 plus -6 is -4. -4 divided by 2 is -2. So your axis of symmetry is x equals -2. I'm going to take away these x equals from the x-intercepts up here, because I don't want to confuse it. Those aren't lines, points. All right, well, if I know the axis of symmetry, I can find the vertex. If I want to find the vertex, we're going to plug in the x value of the axis of symmetry. So we're going to find f of -2. So we'll take the original equation. Wherever we see x, we'll plug in -2. So instead of x minus 2, it's going to be -2 minus 2. And instead of x plus 6, it's going to be -2 plus 6. And then just simplify, do the multiplication. That's -2 times -4 times +4. Which is +32. So our vertex is -2, comma 32. It's the point. -2, 32. The input and the output. All right, what else can we find? Well, we still have the y-intercept. The y-intercept can be found by multiplying a times p times q. Remember, our a value is -2. Our p value is +2. And our q value is -6. So -2 times -2 times +2 times -6 gives us a y-intercept of 24. Or you could write it as the point 0, 24. All right, now I'm not going to graph this one, but we do have enough information to graph. We know the vertex, we know the y-intercept, we know the x-intercepts. Okay. Is that the 5 points we need? It actually will be, because again, you got 2 x-intercepts, that's 2 points. You got the vertex, it's 3 points. You have the y-intercept, it's 4 points. And then you could reflect that over the axis of symmetry to find the 5th. Okay. Now I'm not going to graph it because these numbers are kind of big. All right. But that is factored form. Okay. Factored form gives us just as much information. We got the y-intercept, a times p times q. The axis of symmetry halfway between p and q. p plus q over 2. And then whatever value that is, plug it back in to find that y value of the vertex. Okay. All right, I'm going to keep that one short. I'll probably put another video with another example if you want to run through that. But that's it. Check the Google Classroom for the homework. And have a great Monday.